qualitative basically means that it's not so much conceptual as it is your data is words. So if you interview somebody, or 12 people, let's say, and they all keep mentioning the same experience, and you're interviewing them about something, maybe their what it's like to grow old, or something like that, and they all keep mentioning how they feel isolated from their family more and more as they grow old. Okay, well, that data, the individual data from one participant in a study, is not just useless data. It's not a concept so much as it is when you put that and you see that it overlaps with what other people are saying. Now you have some actual data to support a theme that maybe people are feeling isolated when they're growing older. That's a qualitative sort of approach to research and to making, to gathering understanding of people's lives from a qualitative approach. What you're asked to do in this assignment is use a quantitative approach. We could almost study the exact same thing, but when we don't know what to study, qualitative is sort of better. So what you're wanting to do is, let's say we already know. Let's say we interviewed 12 people about growing old, and then we wanted to study people in the future. And so we developed an instrument to measure their feelings of isolation. And we had them answer the questions on a 6-point scale. Like, those strongly agree, strongly not agree, strongly not agree being 1, and strongly agree being 6. And then so we're getting numbers when we do that. We're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of those, and we'd probably ask 10 or 20 questions about feelings of isolation and any other things we're interested in. And so when we get data from old people in this proposed study I'm making up, well, we're getting numbers, okay? And generally what we want in a quantitative study is more than just descriptive data. So we'd end up with all this information, numbers, and we could do frequencies and averages based on level of isolation, frequency of isolation, the numbers on them answering a survey where we've asked like 10 or 20 questions, and they've answered on that 6-point scale. So we're getting numbers in this case. We've had them fill out information, giving it to us in number form instead of story form, just answering with like an interview question. And so we're getting the data in a different way. If we had 2 groups of people, like we gave our isolation data to people that were growing old and living in a long-term care facility or a nursing home, if they were living there as opposed to still living with family, maybe the grandmother is staying, living with her daughter and the daughter's husband and family. Okay, we could study the isolation effect between those 2 groups and see which group had a higher amount. We could actually do what's called an analysis of variance, is one of a common statistical technique, and it can understand the difference. The variance in isolation scores, basically the difference between the group that's living with family and the group that's not living with family in a long-term care facility. My guess would be that the people in the long-term care facility are often more isolated. I'm just making all this up, but it seems like a good study if I had extra time and wanted to do it. Here you're asked to come up with a quantitative study. So you're going to want to use sort of a survey format, and the questions you ask, you want the responses to be in numeric format so that you could do, and you're going to say, well, I'm going to do a quantitative study, and then I'm going to do either a correlational design, a quasi-experimental design, an experimental design. Those are some of the primary options. And then what you're going to do is list some research questions. Your research questions should be worded as difference between groups, or difference between variables. Like as one rises, as age rises, isolation also rises, maybe. And thus, if you were younger, isolation would be younger. And that's called a correlation. So you want to ask questions that get at that feeling of isolation numerically represented. You want to state a hypothesis in null and alternative form. Discuss and justify your sample. Okay, the people you're asking these questions to, why are they the right people? Explain how you'd recruit people. Surveys are great because you don't have to necessarily interview people. It doesn't take as long. You can send it, put a link on social media and hope it goes viral, or have people share it with people they know. And then the survey with these numeric answers that you're going to ask for is going to go all over the place. The purpose of your study should be to determine or identify a difference or a correlation or something like that, an association or a difference between groups. So hopefully that'll help you move the ball forward and get a little closer. You might pay attention to the words I used: experimental, quasi-experimental, correlational, quantitative. And this video itself may not be enough for you. If you're still left saying, well, that wasn't enough, I don't understand, dig into the reading, but also get online. Look on YouTube for videos from other people, and try to understand whatever word you've heard that doesn't make sense yet, that you haven't gotten a handle on. So thank you, and keep it up.